Undoubtedly, the computer has had the most significant impact on our lives compared to any other tool. Learning about its origins and how it has evolved is fascinating. In my opinion, the story of its development is one of the most heartwarming tales in human history. The abacus, which is the oldest known tool for mathematical calculations, has been used for 3,000 years since the time of the Sumerians. The Salamis stone tablet was discovered in Greece and dates back to 2,300 years ago. The marble stone had lines on it that people used to do their mathematical calculations by stacking stones on the lines. When the Sumerians were using the Salamis tablet, the Romans developed a similar device named the abacus. The abacus that you may still see being used today was invented by the ancient Chinese and is known as the Suan pan. Later on, the Japanese developed their version of the abacus, which is called the soroban. The soroban has special features that make complex calculations easier, which is why it is still used in some parts of the world. Lastly, there is the Russian abacus, which is more commonly recognized compared to the previous examples. In 1617, a Scottish mathematician named John Napier invented a tool known as Napier bones. This device was made by arranging numbered rods of bone or ivory in a specific manner. It enabled easy calculations of large numbers by converting multiplication into addition. Napier bones were highly useful for both experimental calculations and mathematical operations, making them an important tool in the field of mathematics. In 1645, Louis Pascal, a French scientist, created a mechanical calculator to assist his father in financial calculations. This invention allowed him to become known as Pascal. The calculator had 6 groups of gears and cylinders in its first version, which could perform addition and subtraction of 2 numbers using these gears. About 50 years later, in 1694, the great German mathematician Gottfried Leibniz. This device was the result of 22 years of perfecting the timing and was considered very advanced at that time. The calculator was constructed from a cylinder with stepped appendages and was used for performing addition, subtraction, multiplication, and it was even capable of calculating 16-digit numbers. This invention marked the beginning of the construction of advanced mechanical calculators. However, the main issue with these devices was that they were not programmable. This means that they were unable to perform calculations based on a set of instructions, and those instructions could not be changed. Eventually, the solution to this problem was discovered in an unexpected place: the silk fabric industry. During the 18th century, Lyon in France was a hub for nobles, rich merchants, and the silk weaving industry. Although textile machines were available at that time, they could only weave simple designs. Rich people, however, wanted patterned fabrics. As a result, they turned to hand-woven fabrics, but the delicate work of each small part of their weaving took days. Consequently, it was natural that the high demand of the rich would mean the delivery and production of these fabrics would take a long time. In 1804, a weaver named Joseph Marie Jacquard invented a method to automate the weaving process. He used punch cards, cardboard boxes with holes, to determine how to weave each row of fabric. The more complex the design, the more cards were used. This innovation had a profound impact on the silk weaving industry and played a crucial role in its development. However, what's even more significant is that this unique invention became the precursor to modern computers. Years later, in 1820, Charles Babbage combined a mechanical calculator with punch cards to create a calculating device with programming capabilities. This device was called the differential device. Unfortunately, Babbage never completed this project during his lifetime. Nevertheless, his idea was the cornerstone of modern computers as we know them today. For this reason, he was called the father of the modern computer. The next step in the U.S. Census Bureau's progress was to overcome the challenge of efficiently processing the data. The task at hand was to tabulate the raw information about the people, including their gender, age, place of residence, and other relevant details. After the 1880 U.S. Census, the Bureau organized a contest to find the fastest and most efficient way to process the statistical information. The person who came up with the best solution would be declared the winner. The winner of a certain competition was Herman Hollerith. In 1890, he invented a machine called the tabulating machine, which was also known as the accounting machine. Initially, a person used a device called a pantograph to convert statistical data into holes on a card, which was then entered into another device that transformed this information into electrical signals by the flow of electricity between the top and bottom of the holes. These signals activated the gears inside the machine and performed mathematical calculation. In 1911, Herman Hollerith founded the CCR company and made significant improvements to the machine model. In 1924, the company changed its name to IBM, which is currently one of the giants in the computer world. Moving on to the next important step, we have Boolean algebra, which was developed by George Boole in the 19th century. This algebra is distinct from other mathematical algebras as it deals with only two values, one to represent true and 0 to represent false. Boolean algebra has three main functions that operate on binary values 0s and 1, or, and. The AND function returns 1 only if both input values are 1. Otherwise, it returns 0. The function returns 1 if at least one of the input values is 1. Otherwise, it returns 0. The NOT function reverses the input value, changing 1 to 0 and vice versa. The advantage of Boolean algebra is that it allows logical expressions to be expressed mathematically. We have a peculiar concept in mathematics called binary numbers. Unlike normal numbers, which have a base of 10, binary numbers have a base of 2. This means that they use only two digits, 0 and 1. Claude Shannon, a brilliant scientist, combined the concepts of binary numbers and Boolean algebra to become known as the father of information theory. In 1937, he converted the internal relationships of Boolean algebra into electronic circuits, which required binary information. This meant using only the digits 0 and 1, which Shannon called bits, short for binary digits. The main point of the digital computer is to process numbers. The term digit comes from digital and refers to numbers. Each bit in a computer can have only two values, either 0 or 1, which represent often on true and false and so on. When 8 bits are put together, it forms a byte. The person who first implemented Shannon's idea was an American scientist named George Stebbins. His calculator became the world's first digital computer. During the early days of computing, the world's first digital computers were built by putting together 400 mechanical switches, forming a computer called Model 1. As time passed, the number of switches increased, along with their speed and power. However, these early computers had a major flaw. They were noisy and prone to breakdowns. This setback led to the next revolution in computing, with the introduction of vacuum lamps. These lamps not only increased the speed of the computers, but also eliminated the noise. In 1946, following the end of World War II, a device called ENIAC was constructed at the University of Pennsylvania. This computer was made up of 19,000 vacuum lamps and could perform 300 multiplication. It weighed around 30 tons and took up a 140 square meter hole. However, it was clear that a new revolution was necessary. This revolution materialized in the form of the transistor, which is considered one of the top 10 inventions in human history. Over time, transistors were gradually used in place of vacuum lamps, resulting in a reduction in the size of computers, lower electricity consumption, faster processing speeds, and an overall increase in device lifespan. An American physicist named Jack Kilby took the next big step in the history of microelectronics. He created an integrated circuit by placing a large number of transistors on a silicon or germanium plate. This invention earned him the Nobel Prize in 2000. The ICA circuit is also known as a chip, and each chip contains thousands of microscopic transistors. Companies like Google, IBM, and Microsoft have each designed their quantum computers differently. As we are still in the trial and error phase of solving big challenges,